is Jay Stan.
Welcome back to In Retrospect Podcast. We look beyond the surface to find understanding.
Bringing you laughs, knowledge, and culture.
So sit back, relax, and join the convo. Welcome back, y'all. It's been a while.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I know you have missed me, as well as Dashia D. We are back, and we're going to talk about a lot of the, interesting things that have been happening in the world as of late. There's a lot going on, and I cannot wait to get started about some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. So, without further ado, we're going to get straight into it.
Okay, so recently, Lee Daniels dropped a film on Netflix called The Deliverance, starring Andra Day, Glenn Close, Aunjanue Ellis, and Monique. Pretty much is telling the story of a single Black mother who has relocated her family to Pittsburgh for a new start. But little does she know, they are now living in a house that has some evil spirits lingering around. A lot of odd things happen throughout the movie, which causes Monique's character, who is a social worker, to come to the house and to investigate, to figure out, what's going on. Glenn Close plays Andra Day's character's mom, and Aunjanue Ellis is just a neighbor who eventually comes to help. There's been mixed reviews on it. Have you watched it?
I have not watched it.
Okay. So there have been mixed reviews on it. Some people enjoyed it. Some people didn't like it. Some people said, hey, you shouldn't watch this unless, you want these spirits in your house.
See, and that's one of those things when you start, I don't know, everybody's different. Watching certain stuff like that just opens the doors for certain things to get into your mind, and it's whatever. I mean, if I get in the mood, maybe I'll watch it, but some of the reviews and hearing certain things people have said have kind of turned me off by it. But when I get ready, I guess I'll check it out. But yeah.
I think that sometimes Black people, we are some of our harshest critics. It's an actually good movie. Great acting. It's not no shade to Tyler Perry, but it's not a Tyler Perry film. And I think a lot of times people compare him and Lee Daniels for whatever reason. It's not that. And it's not just a scary movie. I would say it's more of like a faith-based thriller, if you will.
Sounds interesting.
Talks about the Black family dynamics, talks about trying to break generational curses while still being in the thick of it. I liked it. I think it was good. I don't think it was scary per se. It definitely made you think, but I don't feel like it's something you're going to watch and it's going to bring evil spirits to your house. I'm also not a super religious person.
It could possibly bring evil spirits to your house. I mean, hey, man, it's always.
I mean, it's based on a true story. Oh. It's based on a true story of a single mother from Gary, Indiana. The house doesn't exist anymore. They bulldozed it.
So the house was on it.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a whole news story. You can look into it, but this is based on a true story. They had a minister on set every day. And if you watch the Breakfast Club interview with Andra Day and Lee Daniels, he says he'll never do another film like this. It took a lot out of him because he's not used to this type of writing.
It sounds like a lot, especially with evil spirits, a house, a family, social worker becoming involved with it, plot thickens. So I'll definitely have to check that out. I'm going to go on with the open mind because I have to. But spirits nonetheless and evil at that. We shall see.
So yeah, I would say I said give it a watch.
So what would you rate it on a scale from 1 to 10?
A solid 8.
Oh, wow.
That's solid.
Above
8.
Average.
Yeah. Also, when you look at the critiques and stuff, a lot of them are white film critics. White people do not understand certain things in Black culture, so they're not going to get the depth of certain things. Just putting that out there. All right. In other news, sad news, so recently, music has lost three people. So on the far left, you have Beat King, who is a producer out of Houston, and then you have Fat Man Scoop on your right, who we all know his ad libs on like 90s through the 2000s, and then in front you got Rich Homie Quan, who is a rapper, of course, from Atlanta. Who recently passed this week. All of which I think passed from health related issues, medical. Let me say medical. Yeah.
Right. I will say this too. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe most of these deaths were unexpected. Some of them may have been dealing with health issues, as you mentioned moments ago. I cannot give you the greater detail of that, but I will say that it just makes you like sit back and realize like how fragile life truly is.
B. King had what's called a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot that stops, your lungs from getting
right. So stuff can get tricky, but yeah, nonetheless, I always encourage people to take care of themselves. These were very unexpected deaths. All these men that were mentioned just moments ago by Dashia D have definitely been instrumental in everyone's lives. I will say that Rich Homie Quan played a lot of him growing up. He basically took over from 2013 to I believe 15, 16. It was all that was on the radio, all that anybody was playing that I hung out with. That was the only music everybody was listening to. And it's just crazy. And like, Fat Man Scoop, a lot of his music got listened to. So it's just really interesting in regards to like how fast these, artists as well as DJs passed away. I mean, what's your take on it? It's kind of sad, but I mean, they inspired a lot of people.
Yeah. Rich Homie Quan died allegedly from an overdose, is what they found. I don't think they've reported on like the specific drug that he overdosed on, but I wanted to dive a little deeper into that because as someone who works with the youth, a lot of these kids do not understand just how dangerous a lot of like these gummies and because I know we're thinking like hardcore drugs, but a lot of people, I'm not going to say name, but a lot of people go to clubs, be like, oh, I want a gummy, or I want this, or I want that. And we've had plenty of kids that have had to be rushed to the hospital because they're taking and ingesting things that they have no idea what's inside of them. And mind you, I work with middle school kids. So they're starting at 12 and 11, vaping in the bathroom, taking gummies, all sorts of things. So I think just being mindful of what your kids are getting into, also yourself. Like, I understand everybody has their vices, but being cognizant of what you are taking in at the end of the day. Because Rich Homie Quan was 34, B King, 31, 32, and Fat Man Scoop was in his, 50s, I want to say. So those are all young men for the most part. They didn't really get to figure out, what the other side is like, the other, outside of 50. So I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'll also say too, really quickly, as far as we're talking about, folks leaning towards using, drugs recreationally, that's not the smartest thing to do in most cases, if not all. So definitely in regards to that, please keep an eye on your friends, your family, and make sure as best you can that they're not using and abusing. It's easier said than done, of course. I will also say that I also want to shine a light on probably some medicinal drugs that folks may be using from prescribed by their doctors. Definitely, please make sure you're reading the labels for every type of medication that you're using because you never know. What you may be taking may not actually be helping your health. So definitely look into what you're taking.
Also, people grieve differently. I've seen a lot of social media debates going on because Rich Homie Quan, I guess, was in a long-term relationship with his child's mother. But then you have other young women posting him and talking about their relationships with him. And recently that happened with someone that I grew up with. They passed, and then it was different people posting them, and it caused all of this drama. Some people feel like if you were a secret, remain a secret when that person has passed. I feel like everyone's going to grieve how they grieve. If they're going to post memories, then post them. But also just know that people are going to come at you, unfortunately. But also, and this is not to shade anyone who is deceased. No one is perfect, right? Like no one is a perfect person. We all make mistakes. But just the way that you live your life when you are here, you no longer have control over the narrative once you're gone. So just
but that's
make
why people
sure
say
that you
let the dead rest. People say that all the time.
That's
Let
not a
them
real
rest.
thing.
I said, but people say let them rest.
They say that, but we got 50,000 different documentaries on how Tupac died, who shot Tupac, who shot Biggie. Though they're not resting. We got holograms of Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson. We have so many movies of Whitney Houston. So many movies. There's a movie coming out with about Michael Jackson's life next year. So I think that, especially if you're a public figure, people are going to continue to talk about you, whether it be positive or negative. There might be conspiracy theories. Some people are like, oh, he has to testify. Listen, I don't too much get deep into conspiracy theories because some of them just be a little too far-fetched for me. At the end of the day, people are grieving somebody who is their brother, their cousin, their dad. And these are real people. So that's why I said try to make sure that you have control over your narrative while you're here so that people cannot flip it.
Man, live your life, but be respectful of everybody around you. That's all I got to say. Because most times, everything that you do in the dark will come to the light eventually. So ultimately, if you can live with it, then I guess do what it do.
So prayers and peace and love to all of these men's families. And yeah, grief is a very tricky and hard thing to do. All right. So I don't want to dive too deep into this one because, I mean, we've heard about it a lot, but there was yet another school shooting in Georgia, in Barrow County. Like I said earlier, I work in the school district. I don't work for that county. But when people hear, my loved one who works in schools, school shooting, people start to become concerned. And so I actually learned about this shooting through people calling me while I was at work saying, are you okay? Are you okay? And so then I thought, okay, well, what's going on? And so then I saw on the news, what was going on. It's about an hour away from Atlanta. And they've already taken the suspect, and his father has also been charged as well. I have a lot of different questions about it. The first one is, should parents of the shooter be charged?
Of course.
Of course?
Of course.
Why?
Why? Because 9 times out of 10, they were involved with said child getting hands on the firearm, or they were aware of it. And I don't know if this is the specific case in regards to that. I know it's still developing as far as they're trying to uncover everything that was going on with it. But most of the time, these parents are more than aware that something is going on with their children. And if they're not, they need to be more active in what's going on. I'm sorry. Me personally, I'm trying to figure out how, when you're watching your child, they come home. And once more, I will say, I do not have any kids. How you do not pick up on signs of what is going on at home for you to actually see what they're getting involved with. And when something like that goes on, yes, it needs to be a full investigation, and the parents should be held responsible.
So I disagree with that. Here's the thing. Parents are going to do, most parents are going to do what they feel is best as far as parenting and raising their kids. And sometimes their children don't believe that fat meat is greasy. And they're going to step out and they're going to do dumb shit. Now, this is the ultimate dumb shit thing you could do, right? Obviously, we don't know all of the details of why the dad was charged, but this isn't the first case where parents were charged. There was a case 2 years ago.
I'll interject. Allegedly, the father gave said child firearm. Allegedly.
Yeah, okay. But so like I said, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, it's on Hulu. There were 2 parents that were charged along with their kid for shooting up another school. And so I don't know. I think it has to be a case by case thing, because if it's a kid where the parent is aware that they have some mental health issues going on, they have weapons in the house, but they're locked and the child does not have access to it. The child is, let's say they already had the child in therapy. They have the child on medication. The child has been diagnosed with whatever mental health diagnoses they may have, and that kid still chooses to act out something like that. I don't feel like the parent should be charged, because you've done everything you could do. That kid made a decision, and he's what, 14, 15? So charge him as an adult, and that is his cross to bear. That's that. Also, I feel like it's putting a Band-Aid on something that is a deeper issue. A child should not have, anybody, we should not have access to no AR-15s and machine. What are you using it for? You ain't going hunting with that.
Gotta protect the house.
You don't need an AR to do that.
I need every type of automatic weapon I can have.
Because if that's the case, if you need those type of guns, you need to be taking some lessons, because you shouldn't need a machine gun to shoot somebody that you want to shoot.
Gotta protect the house.
You don't need that level of machinery.
What if someone says it makes them feel safe?
That's fine. Keep it locked. That's what I said. If you have it in the house and you have kids, you need to keep it locked. People are not well. Because let's say somebody breaks into your house and they get to your gun before you do. Now you have a gun for no reason, because now the perpetrator has it. And now you left it with these hands. That's it. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of guns. I understand that people want them for protection, and I don't knock it. I just think that you have to take certain safety precautions, especially when you have kids in your house.
Oh, that's completely true with any and everything. I completely agree with that.
Now let's take it a step further. They said that this child was being investigated like a year ago.
They'd already been kicked out of a school before.
Right. And I guess the FBI were aware that this kid, like, he's not well. And he's made threats.
Oh, so he's not well.
Now.
Or is he a threat?
He's not well mentally is what I mean.
That's what I'm at, boy. I understand you're saying
both.
Okay.
So in those cases, then who's held liable? Because if we're holding the parents liable, then are we holding the school accountable for that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Why?
Because they should be aware of a list of who has said mental issues or a history of such threats. They should have a list of said kids, and they should be monitoring them closely, or closer than other kids.
So as somebody who works in schools, yet again, right? So let's peel back the layers, because we're gonna really dig into this.
That's fine.
Okay, so in my position, right, I work with a lot of kids who have mental health issues, who are homeless, who have all sorts of things going on, right? And there's 1,000 children in the building. So let's keep that in mind. Now, this school, it was like 9,000, right? It was a few thousand children in this school. I have 1,000. They have probably times 3, times 4 that. Now, most schools will have an ongoing list of children who have different types of issues, whether they be mentally, academically, behaviorally, whatever the case may be. And it is up to us as a school to make sure that they get the services that they need. However, you can offer those services, they don't have to take them, right? There have been plenty of parents I've spoken to that say, we don't need that, my child doesn't need that. Or the child goes and doesn't talk, doesn't do anything. So yet again, if you're putting all of these things into place.
So it's the parents' fault.
No, it's the child. It's the fact that a child has access to a gun, first of all. It's not locked up. Second, if somebody has severe mental health issues in your home, why are you even allowed to own a gun at this point?
So you're saying the school wouldn't be held liable if services were offered but declined?
The school shouldn't be held liable, period. This is what I'm getting at. Most of these kids who have shot through these schools are kids who have been dismissed from those schools, but were able to get in, whether they snuck in through a side building, whether they just got past security, whatever the case may be. Most schools at this point have double security doors. Like I know with my school, you can't, the first door is locked and then that door is locked.
Yeah, I was about to say schools are not the same from when I was in school. Schools used to be wide open. You can walk clean out of the building and just go anywhere. Now, schools are fortresses.
It's so bad to the point where, let's say I'm leaving out of my building. If a parent is trying to come in, I cannot leave the door open to let them in. I have to close the door behind me, and the parent has to wait until someone sees them on camera to show their ID to say why they're here. And a lot of times, they don't even allow parents in the building. They'll say, okay, who are you here to see? Let's see your ID. Okay. And then, they carry on. So all of that to say, like, we keep putting into place all of these different things to try and set an illusion that schools are safe, when in reality, they just aren't. And it's not the school's fault, right? It's the fact that there are people in places that can make things shake that are choosing not to.
And before we do move any further, I just want to say condolences to the families of everyone that is on screen currently that you can't see. It's very unfortunate that these events took place, or this event specifically took place. Ultimately, in a lot of cases, I wouldn't say I speak for law enforcement when I say this, but when a lot of this stuff takes place, like you said moments ago, someone has to go to jail, or someone has to be held liable. And ultimately, right now, that is said child, said parent, and we will see who else gets uncovered through this whole case, because this is just wild in itself. And the fact that it keeps happening is even crazier. So we're going to see.
Yeah. So what else is happening in the news that was not included?
So I also wanted to talk about, folks, we did just come off of that topic that's very, near and dear to a lot of folks' hearts, because a lot of people have cousins, sisters, brothers, a lot of people that are in the schools trying to get their education and move to the next level and then become, highly functioning folks in the real world, as we say. I also wanted to talk about, when we talk about becoming highly functional people in the working world, I wanted to touch base on a Wells Fargo worker that was found dead in their cubicle after, I believe it was some days.
4 days.
4 days. And someone finally went in there and they had been dead that long. I really want to shine the light on that, because so many times, a lot of folks' parents, I'm not going to say everyone's parents, have drilled into them. You have to work extremely hard in order for you to get what you want in this world. And sometimes that may be the case, but please do not do it to your own detriment, to the point that you're not here. And granted, I do not know the specifics on said person, if they did have a medical condition, but they were in their cubicle and no one checked on them for X amount of days, which is 4 days that has been reported. And I was curious to know, what are your thoughts on folks working themselves to the bone, or to death specifically? Not trying to make this a laughing matter at all.
I would say F the job. It's that simple. Take your vacation days, because at the end of the day, this lady was taken up after 4 days, and I promise you her position was posted within 24 hours. Take your days to relax. Do not do this extra overtime. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. We just have told stories of people who haven't even made it to C55.
Yeah. And I also want to touch base. There's also a video that is circulating online in regards to a young lady who had recorded her phone call with HR when she was terminated, for better words, or let go, or transitioned out, or ushered out. I wouldn't say ushered out, because it was a phone call. She was at, I believe, her residence, wherever she lives. And the HR lady called and said, hey, I just want to let you know you were late on such and such date, 12 minutes late. On another date, you were late 21 minutes. We've already had discussions about you being late. And then the third time, she was a no call, no show, didn't come at all. And ultimately, this resulted in her being terminated. And she did not see why she was being terminated. Granted, this does not go hand in hand in a sense with working yourself to death, but some may say that the HR wasn't right for firing her. They should. What would you say in regards to her termination? Do you think she has a point in saying she was only 12 minutes late, she was only 21 minutes late, and then she was in a no-call, no-show because it was her birthday? Do you think she has the right to say that she's unfairly being fired?
No. She deserves to be unemployed right now. I don't know her, but if a job is telling you, usually you get warnings.
Warnings with the S.
Yeah, usually you get warnings like, hey, we noticed that you were 10 minutes late today. This causes an issue because X, Y, Z. That's a verbal warning. Second time, you might be written up. I've never experienced this. I've seen people experience. You get written up.
Don't sign the paper.
Whether you sign it or not, though, they can even say this person refused to sign. And so if they are listing off bullet points of all the times that you played in their face, I mean, I don't know what you want me to do. And to record it and to put it online further lets me know your lack of maturity.
Yeah, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. But that it has been a hot debate. A lot of folks from the older generation will say she's out of her mind in a sense, because why are you coming late to a place that you're trying to get your money at, secure that, and then find something else if you don't like the place? And then you have the new wave of folks, a newer way of thinking, saying, well, at least she went. What's the problem? They should be lucky she's even showing up.
Interesting. So let's say that you have a medical problem, right? And you're stuck in traffic, but you're having a medical problem and they call EMS, right? The person who's supposed to be driving the truck shows up 10 minutes late. And so you are there even longer waiting for them to show up. But, right, they get there and now you barely hanging on because that 10-minute gap could have made a difference. But at least they showed up, though. At least they showed up. And
I do know it was a situation like that. That person did pass away. So those minutes, everything really, truly does matter. And that was extreme, but I completely agree with that example. I also will say, too, I feel as if, though, me personally, I'm a 90s baby, so I know a little bit about the old school way of thinking as well as the new of also taking care of yourself, take your time off when you need it. You have to take care of yourself idea. But at the same time, this is not your company, so you must be prepared for any consequences that may come against not following the policy or guidelines that have been set in place. I would advise everybody to read their employee handbook as well as policies in regards to any matter work-related, because you can, at times, follow everything to the letter that can work in your best interest.
And also, that's going to follow you. So when you apply to other jobs, they're going to ask you, what happened? How are you going to use them for a reference if you just do what you want to do? There's a fine line between F that job and professionalism. Yeah. Right? Like, I said that to be sarcastic because obviously you need money in order to live life. However, you also want to have a certain level of professionalism. People are going to be late. That happens. That's life. But you don't want to make a habit out of it. So chime in below. Let us know what you think. We are no longer going to be airing on Fridays, but you will see us every other Wednesday. I have been Dashia D.
And I've been Jay Stan. So always remember to like, comment, and subscribe.